Okay, Battle 28. I don't know how to start off this video, so I'm just going to read off the title, which you've probably already read. Anyway, if you take a quick look at my team, you'll see this is actually Frankie's team. He was nice enough to share it, and he has a fellow team raider, so I'm pretty glad about that. It has some pretty underrated Pokemon, and it's a kind of nice change of pace from my normal Sand team. Didn't do too well, considering this is probably my first time using it, but it was still pretty fun overall. He's going to lead off with Mamoswine against my Tyranitar, and I can't risk him staying in using Earthquake, because it's a potential one-hit KO on some sets, even though I was kind of expecting him to go for Rocks first turn. I'm going to switch into Slowbro to take the Earthquake, and it is a very bulky Pokemon because it has max HP and pretty high defense as well. So I don't really mind taking another Earthquake because I have Slack Off and Regenerator to recover 33% of my health when I switch out. Go for a Scald. He doesn't really have anything that likes taking Burn, although he does have a Water Resist in Blastoise. And he actually goes for a second Earthquake here, so I guess he just wanted to sack his Mamoswine. I'm actually going to go for a Psychic because any one of my remaining moves could have finished him off, and if he decided to switch to a Water Resist at this point, like Blastoise, it probably would have hit it harder than Scald anyway. So I'm not really going to mind, even though I'm at pretty low health, because as I said earlier, I do have Regenerator, plus I also have Slack Off as well, which is going to make me pretty bulky and hard to take down. He goes to a Scizor, and I was kind of expecting the specially defensive version because most people don't run Choice Band anymore, but he actually predicts the switch out and goes for a Pursuit, so it is a Choice Band version. That also means, though, that he's locked into Pursuit, so I'm going to set up a free sub with Landorus. And I wasn't really sure what spread he was running on his Blastoise. Of course, it's going to be bold in a pretty defensive set, but I kind of just wanted to scout how much damage Earthquake would do. Earthquake actually hits about 195 base power in Sand, so Sand Force is a kind of broken ability. I wouldn't really say that Landorus is uber, but it definitely does a lot of damage. So I'm going to go for Earthquake. Unfortunately, it's not a 2-hit KO, but he does roar me out, so he doesn't have a chance to recover. Going to go into Scizor, and this isn't really a good switch in because he's probably going to have Scald as well, and I don't really want to risk a burn, so I'm going to be forced to switch out at this point. And I'm just going to go into my Celebi because if I switched into Slowbro, I wouldn't really be able to do that much back. And I don't have a natural cure on Slowbro, of course, so he kind of would have minded the burn a little bit more. Gonna go into Celebi. Fortunately, I don't actually get burned, which is pretty good. I don't have a dedicated recovery move on this set because I just rely on Giga Drain, so sometimes survivability becomes an issue. I'm kind of just wondering if I should just switch out Psychic for recover sometimes, but it is pretty useful for hitting dragons and such. So he's gonna switch out to his Espeon, and I just set up a nasty plot on the switch, predicting him to go out. Wasn't really expecting Espeon though. I thought that maybe he'd want to go to maybe Zapdos or Dragonite instead, but I assume he's probably just gonna want to get up screens because no leftovers means that it's gonna be Light Clay supposedly. And I'm pretty much just going to have to hit him pretty hard. But I am going to get up a nasty plot again because I kind of want to be at +4 so I could sweep him better. And this is definitely going to do a lot more damage to his Espeon than just +2. So I'm just going to get off a Giga Drain, and that'll put me back to full health. Kind of the main reason that I wanted to get up a second nasty plot. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to sweep the rest of his team because he does have a light screen up, but it is going to be a pretty decent amount of damage done to Espeon. So I'm going to get off the first Giga Drain, and that's going to do a lot of damage to Espeon, as you can see. Also puts me back at full health after the recovery, which is pretty good for survivability. And he's actually going to predict me to KO him now, so he decides to stay in with his Espeon as death fodder. So he just goes for that hidden power fighting, so that's going to be useful for later to note against Tyranitar. Anyway, I'm just going to go for a third nasty plot, and that's going to put me at +6, which is the max. And I didn't really think that Espeon could do anything to Celebi, which is why I felt it was pretty safe to set up a third one. And I'm actually just going to go for the safe Giga Drain. I guess I could have gone for Psychic. Not sure if that would have KO'd, but it probably would at +6, even though he has screens up. He actually goes out to his Scizor. Not really a problem, though, because I am running Hidden Power Fire, and that's definitely going to be able to KO Scizor since it's quad effective, even though he has screens up. So he actually realizes that and decides to go for a Bullet Punch instead of a Bug move. So that does quite a lot of damage to Celebi as well, but I do survive it relatively well because I have pretty much max HP investment. Actually, a lot of bulk compared to what I had running before when I had like special attack and speed mostly. So he's actually going to send in his Zapdos at this point, and I thought that it'd probably be faster because I'm running a relatively slow Celebi. So just in case I had Heat Wave, I decided to go out to Tyranitar. It turns out that I actually do outspeed him later in the match though, so I kind of get punished for my conservative playing style, as you can see. So I'm going to go into Tyranitar. I'm running a pretty specially bulky one, so I switch into that Heat Wave and does hardly anything. And I really know that there's no point in setting up Stealth Rock at this point because he still has his Espeon, so I just went for a Rock Slide hoping to finish it off. Unfortunately though, I actually do miss the Rock Slide. I'm not really sure if that's too bad for me because it does give me another turn to waste his screens. So he's going to go for that Hidden Power Fighting, but I do carry Chople to handle fighting moves. So even though he does get a crit, I survive it pretty well. Just went for that Pursuit in case he decided to switch out. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't, but at least gives me a definite way to take out Espeon. So his light screen wears off, and he's going to send out Dragonite now, and I really can't afford for him to stay at full health because he has multi-scale, and I can revenge a Dragonite, but I really can't do it that well if he has multi-scale still activated. So in case he decided to set up and he had leftovers, I just stayed into Rock Slide hoping to break his multi-scale, but he actually just goes for that Earthquake, which is going to finish me off, and he also has Life Orb, so I don't really have to worry about multi-scale as much. I'm going to go for that Stone Edge, but I barely miss out on the KO, even though Stone Edge is a really powerful move. I was actually considering Hidden Power Ice, but I felt that because of the spread I was running in Sand Force, Stone Edge probably would have been a better idea. So he does get off a final attack, which is going to do quite a lot to Landorus, and I really can't switch it in a second time, so I'm just going to sack it here and go for that final Earthquake. It's going to do a pretty good amount of damage to Blastoise, but he is going to finish me off with a Scald at this point. Not really too bad though, because I still have Celebi to deal with Blastoise, even though it's at pretty low health anyway. So I am going to send in Celebi now. Unfortunately, though, I was never able to get up rocks in this match, which probably put me at a pretty big disadvantage, considering he has a couple of Stealth Rock weak Pokemon anyway. So I'm going to switch back into Celebi now and finish off his Blastoise with a Giga Drain. It's going to do a pretty negligible amount of recovery, but it still helps a little bit at this point. It is going to finish off his Blastoise, but unfortunately he's going to be able to send in his Zapdos next turn. And I actually made a mistake earlier. His Zapdos does outspeed my Celebi, and I kind of wish I had Stealth Rock, as I mentioned earlier, because I could have had a pretty good shot at winning this still if I had set it up earlier. So he's going to go for an Agility, revealing what kind of set his Zapdos is running. And I actually have nothing else that resists Heat Wave, so I'm just going to have to stay in with Celebi. Just went for that Psychic because I really couldn't switch into anything else. So he is going to have that Agility up and go for that Heat Wave, which is going to be able to KO Celebi. Heat Wave has 90% accuracy, which is pretty reliable, so he's going to be able to pretty much sweep the rest of my team for now. If I was running Jolly on Excadrill, then I could have still had a pretty good chance of outspeeding him, or at least winning the speed tie and finishing him off with Rock Slide. But I'm actually running Adamant, so he does outspeed and finish me off with another Heat Wave. So he's taking a little bit of residual damage from Sandstorm, and because of that I was kind of hoping that he might be in KO range for Scissors Bullet Punch. Probably not though, because I'm not really running a Choice Band set, so I don't really have that high of an attack stats. And I just go for that Bullet Punch because there's really nothing else I can do at this point. But he manages to survive and finishes me off with a final Heat Wave, which is going to lose me the match 1-0, I believe.